I'm Morgan, and my chapter was chapter 22, one plane left, and so basically that's when the war room is kind of like celebrating that they have the recall for all the planes, and then Dimitri calls and he informs them that there's still another plane, and so they still have the same problem with the bomb. So my first scene, I wanted to show that recall for all the planes. So I have process work for basically different styles of making the planes. So I started with like sort of like a round oval shape for the first section here, and then I decided that I wanted the plane to be more angular on its with its wings. And then I have process for different clouds, and so I have like sort of like a half circle and then circles together. And so here's my final scene, and I have like basically the mountain backdrop in the foreground and also in the background, and then I have all of the planes that are being recalled, but I made them all like a really small size comparative to the plane that gets through because I want them to seem insignificant, because like it doesn't matter like how many planes get recalled, even if there's only one plane that continues on, it's still a huge problem. For my second scene, I wanted to depict, like, there's this one portion where I believe it's, what's his name, Turgison, and he's basically talking about how, like, what if it's really not, there really isn't another plane out there, like, what if the Russians are just making it up, and so he says, like, oh, I smell like a rat, and like, let's not wait till the spaghetti hits the fan. So like, I have a fan right here, and also like these sharp objects for like the splatter on the wall. And so here's my process for Turgison, and like I wanted to emphasize his nose because he's like, I smell a rat. And so I have like several different noses, but I thought that one looked like a mustache on the left side. So I decided to stick with this one over here. Those are just my lines and stuff. I was like messing with color because I was originally going to do purple, but I decided to do red instead. So yeah, here's the fan, the splatter from the spaghetti hitting the fan, and his giant nose. And then I changed it to a black background, gave him a tie, and then that's like a little rat hole in the back. And then for my final scene, I wanted to depict the conversation between Dimitri and the president. And I thought that it was like really interesting how the president's emotions changed throughout that part. And so he was really like confident, like, oh my gosh, Dimitri, like I can't believe like all the planes are recalled. This is great. And then Dimitri, when he gives him the news, he all of a sudden like almost shrinks back down and sort of like cringes and becomes this very small person. So I literally looked up Russian hat for Dimitri, and so found these studs over here to get a hat off of. And then I wanted to do a split scene so you could see, and I used red to portray Dimitri, so not only his figure and his emotion in person, but his voice through the phone. So he's basically like yelling at the president. Final scene.
Want to go back to your first scene? I might think of a way to show the propellers, because you kind of get, I kind of lost the propellers with the other planes that are flying by.
Well, why do we have propellers?
I'm not quite sure. I just thought that it would depict the plane better, but I was having issues with showing it, so yeah, they're not.
This is a huge jet. I don't think we want to have a prop on it actually anyway. So I mean, we'll get the. I think that the red part of it is strong enough. I think I'd just drop them off this one. Then you'd have a greater similarity. Would that answer the problem, Tanner? They look better, look more like each other?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need here. I think that's very good that you know, depict this one plane so much larger, because that is the point. It only takes one. All the rest was overkill.
I think the red splatter on the wall doesn't really look like spaghetti, so it's just like blood.
I know, I was kind of thinking that.
So,
Yeah, now here's a question dealing with this one. First of all, it's not spaghetti. I mean, it's comic that he says spaghetti instead of saying the shit hit the fan. It's as though, you know, suddenly he's in a place where he just has to, you know, worried his mom's going to hear him or something. So it doesn't, in one sense, matter too much what you depict there, because we have both terms in mind. But let's think about the composition of the whole thing. We've got a lot of black blank space. And I'm wondering, should something in this be bigger? Why are we've got like objects circling a black space in the middle? What do the rest of you think?
I think if you rethought the whole spike, you know, not necessarily like the big kind of blood splatter looking. Actually throw in maybe some curved lines and maybe even some meatballs to kind of depict that it's spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
And put it not just on one wall, spread it across the walls, because I mean, if something hits the fan, it's going everywhere.
Is there any reason that only 2 of the fan blades have a rounded edge on them?
That's because the way that I couldn't get the angle right for it, but now that I think about it, I could have put triangles on it. But yeah, they are rounded. It's a little ununiform.
Did you consider a different kind of fan?
I actually didn't. I could do that.
Like if you want it to direct to one wall, then you almost would have to have a floor fan. Because as Tanner's pointed out, when it's up there, if something's under, it's going to splatter the whole room around. So you probably need to make a decision between whether or not you want that one effect there or what. But I believe that Turgidson, who was masterfully depicted, needs to be a lot larger. Because the point here is that we have Turgidson using all these silly cliches when what he really wants to do is just go to war. And you might consider putting a little mouse next to the mouse hole or a little rat next to the rat hole. And if you could make it a commie rat, you know, somehow maybe put a little hat on it, you might have the last touch that you need there, and just kind of shift the parts around. Decide what you really want to do about that fan. If you make him more prominent, you could kind of have the stuff circling his head. That's one way to go. I think you would get a lot from putting a little commie rat in there, I think.
Okay.
What do the rest of you think about this scene? I think it has a lot of potential, but just not quite there. And I do think the view of Turgidson is very, very good. Okay, do you want to see the other scene again, or whatever? The rest of you who are just eating lollipops need to participate some.
Can I see the scene with the phone conversation?
Yeah.
Now, is he supposed to be a mouse?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, because when you, in the scene, it's like I smell a mouse or whatever. So now I feel like he's the commie.
Well, there's a difference between it because he says, I smell a rat, and this is him being mousy, like a character trait as like being small and like meek.
Yeah, I just feel like it's so close together already.
Well, you know, I'm wondering if this mouse could have one more feature, so that, you know, like maybe that little band of hair on both sides or something, something that would make it unmistakably Muffley, President Muffley. I think our problem right here is that it's
Not connecting to the character.
yeah, not as connected to the character as, I mean, we've got Dimitri over there, it's red, and he's got his hat, and there's no question about who he is, but we just need, I think, a little more connection over here with the character.
For a trait, like, I don't know if, the president ever wears one, but like the American flag pin that you usually see them wearing, so maybe if you could make like a small thing and put it on his lapel, that would distinguish him.
Ashley?
Maybe you could even play around with the fact on like how he's bald, so maybe you could like make it look like the mouse is bald, or even emphasize like the glasses more maybe. I don't know.
I think you can connect the squares around his eyes, making like a glasses.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
In your character development, it actually looks like a bear to me,
Mm-hmm.
because the muzzle is so quite large, and the mouse is a lot smaller.
Yeah, you might shrink down the muzzle on it, and even a whisker or two or something might help there. Yeah. I think, again, it has a lot of potential. There's just little more to go on this. The other thing about, you know, the use of the space, we end up with this big V of black space coming down there. And I'm wondering if there is any way to, maybe that shape behind Dimitri needs to be a different shape.
Okay.
Can you see what I mean? What, can you suggest a different shape or something? Because I'm almost thinking if he's standing in a circle or a pure rectangle, we won't get that big V of black space right there.
Yeah, because you have that light kind of coming down on him, that triangle shape. I think if you made him more of a bigger rectangular shape, then it wouldn't take away from the light so much.
Yeah, maybe just play with the sizing of him, just to show that he's like a dominant, like overwhelming kind of person. And I like how the colors with like the phone projection out. I like that really like I can tell that he's speaking like at the phone. So I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, good job. Okay, just a few tweaks on that, I think, Martin. A lot of good ideas there.